So while you were there, you raised the fentanyl issue.
Yeah.
And I read the language closely, and I have spent some time in that same building you are. And this was a triumph of diplomatic, diplo-speak.
Thank you.
Where the two sides agreed to explore the creation of a working group. Love that, love that. So there was that. And then I saw that China basically, however you say not now or take a hike in Mandarin, on establishing mill crisis communications. So my question is, on those two issues, am I misreading it? And then on other issues, for example, China's willingness to participate in the next round of nuclear arms control talks. The last time I raised it with a senior Chinese official, he basically said, no way. We've got to build up our nuclear arms. We're not interested. Do you get the sense that when China's looking at all these issues, where did you come away with optimism? Was it any of these issues? Was it possibly Ukraine? Is there any area where, again, you see some potential upside in China's diplomatic openness?
Well, first, just taking the issues that you mentioned, let's start with fentanyl. And there's a good reason to start with fentanyl. And in a sense, it's really worth pausing on this for a second because, as I suspect most people know in this room, the number one killer of Americans aged 18 to 49 is fentanyl. So if you start from that premise, it makes sense that you'd want to be focusing a lot of your time and resources and effort on that, and we are. And indeed, as I mentioned, in just a couple of weeks' time, we'll be moving forward with a broader international coalition to deal with this. And it's a problem and a challenge that we've been facing for some time. We're doing it holistically, by which I mean there's a lot that has to go on in the United States, including reducing demand, dealing with treatment. At the same time, major law enforcement challenges. We have our border and making sure, to the best of our ability, that synthetic opioids can't get over the border with impunity. There's a lot of technology that goes into that. Working with Mexico, where the synthetic opioids are created. But there's, of course, as everyone knows, a China dimension to this problem, because the precursors that go into the fabrication of fentanyl are right now primarily made in China, and they are then diverted, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not knowingly, to criminal enterprises that turn them into fentanyl close to our border and then send them into our country. So it's profoundly in our interest to see if we can get cooperation from China to deal with this problem. We've had some successes in the past, including their decision a few years ago to stop the exportation of fentanyl itself. But the chemical precursors are where the problem is now. There's a lot that goes into this in terms of trying to elicit that cooperation, even as we are taking action against any institution, company, individuals we find that are engaged in this illicit trade. I believe, based on the sentence that you read, that we're actually getting to a place where we might actually get practical cooperation from China. And this is not as a favor to us. This is because what we're seeing around the world is a demand signal, because fentanyl is now hitting many more countries. We've been the canary in the coal mine. Our market is actually saturated. The criminal enterprises engaged in synthetic opioids are now trying to make markets in other places, including in Europe, including in Asia. And so more and more countries are now raising their voice and saying, we need action on this, we need cooperation on this. I don't think China's going to be immune to that. So I have some modest hope that we can find a way to elicit their cooperation.